Jason Loomis, welcome to the show.
Hi, James. Thanks for having me on.
No, absolute pleasure. This is Kernel. This is stories from the cybersecurity industry. We have a very, very broad theme here in the interest of just pulling in sort of lots of interesting people to tell lots of interesting anecdotes about their career or things that are on their mind at the moment. This is a very special episode for me because I think, maybe the one of the sort of three or four people that I've known for the longest in the security industry and continue to stay in touch with. So thank you for coming on.
Thanks. I don't know if you're dating yourself or me or both, but thanks for that.
A bit of everything, bit of everything. But yeah, look, you're somebody that I've always admired for a few reasons.
Thank you.
Actually, and I've given you no heads up on this, so I'm just blindsiding you with this.
With
this
the compliments. Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Mate, I think the first is you've always struck me as somebody who has a very balanced opinion on whatever it is that's going on at the moment. So we got to know each other through COVID. We talked a lot through the kind of mini tech recession of 2022. We've talked a lot about AI in the last couple of years. So that's one reason. Number two, you're somebody who I think speaks very eloquently about leadership. And I think some of the stories that you've told me about the ways that you've solved certain problems in your security programs, I just think that they're great things for people to hear. And the third is you have achieved so much in your career and life over the last few years. You're somebody that's made it to the top of the industry, and you've been a CISO multiple times. And I don't know if this is just a face that you're putting on. You always give the impression that you're having a good time and actually enjoying yourself.
Yeah.
So I'll let you just respond to those three things that I love about Jason Loomis.
Yeah. I forgot the first two because I was so focused on the last one. I think you might be right. Like one of the things I'm known for, sometimes this can be detrimental to career advancement. I've found that to be the case is I don't take myself too seriously. I don't take security too seriously. And I try to have fun doing what I'm doing with me and my team. I'm not in an emergency. It's not the pit. If you're familiar with the TV show, I'm not in the emergency room, having lives online, at stake. I don't work in healthcare. So yeah, it is. I try not to take myself too seriously. I try to have fun. I want my team to have fun doing what they're doing. I want them to have that drive, autonomy, purpose, mastery of what they do, and this ability to have a smile on your face when you come to work and not dread, oh, what incident do I have to work today? Oh my God, the bad guys are out there, or we're going to fail miserably as a company if we don't fix this problem. So I appreciate that you can see that. And I hope that my team see that as well.
I mean,
what were the first two?
Handsome, physically.
Stop.
Generous.
I am not a paid sponsor, everyone. I'm not paying for this episode.
Yeah. You're going to transfer me the money to boost this on LinkedIn a bit later today. So in managing to, and I've known lots of people who've worked for your teams in sort of various different companies, and they all have very, very positive things to say about you. Do you feel, I guess, for the way that you like to lead security programs, that sort of light touch and being able to keep things from disappearing into seriousness all the time, do you think that's quite an important part of how you lead?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. It's how I get the most out of high performing people. I don't believe that fear as a motivation is a way to get people to work harder. I don't believe money is their motivation. I think money is a hygiene factor, right? Okay, I'm making the same as if people want to make the same as their peers in their industry, take care of healthcare benefits, the hygiene factors. Once those are set, the reason why you perform high is you have autonomy. I think I mentioned these three before. You have autonomy, the ability to kind of run your day. So I'm not a command and control leader. Never have been, even down to an IC1. Like I'll assist and guide and help them with some direction of what they need to do. A couple times, here's how you do it. Now go do it. But I'm not going to tell them, their day-to-day existence. So here's what you got to do, and allow people to become the best at what they do by allowing them to branch out. A lot of times you'll see in security, you're a SOC analyst. That's all you do. Training. You only get SOC analyst training. No, why would you want to take incident response training? You're a SOC analyst. No. Or why would you want to take governance and risk around AI as training? No, you're a SOC analyst. And I don't believe that. I think well-rounded security practitioners at any level is what makes you better at your job, regardless of the vertical within security that you're in. So those are some of the things that I bring to the table as a leader.
And I think we've and this episode is going to skip quite wildly all over the place because we're going to talk a little bit about the way that you began your career. We're going to lead into some of your thoughts, particularly given how passionate you are about developing talent, about AI and the future pipeline of talent. I think that's going to be the sort of the bulk of this episode. But I just want to pick up on something that you said there, because this actually goes back about 7 years to one of the first conversations that we had, where you said something really interesting to me, where you said at one point you felt like as a security leader, it was quite important that your team of people were able to contradict you and they were able to execute parts of your program that you actually disagreed with. And that was just such an important thing to you, that there will be ways that your program moves that you actually don't think are quite the right way to go. I think your philosophy at the time was that you might lose, a couple of weeks of progress, or you might move a bit slower over the course of a few months. But if you look at that program over years, that you get so much more done. So I don't know if that's still your philosophy, but could you speak to that?
Yes, that absolutely has not changed. If I have a yes man working for me, one of us is redundant. And I build that through, I apply all these models. F5 dysfunctions of a team is a great framework where you have to have this idea of trust first and then conflict. And I mean, conflict means the ability to debate the ideas and the technology, cognitive based conflict, not where you're conflicting with you. That's an ugly sweater you're wearing today, James. But hey, I think this idea you had about using EDR that uses this method versus other method is bad. So yeah, I absolutely expect to be disagreed with. In fact, if a CISO thinks they're the smartest person in the room, that's a bad CISO.
Mm,
I have a team of 60 under me, 60, 65. I guarantee they know more about their job and what they do and how they do it, the technical intricacies of their job, than I do. I may have a very high level conceptual understanding and I can guide and I'm the coach, I know how to do the play, but as quarterback, when you're throwing the ball, my quarterback out there on the field,
mm,
I'm not going to know where to throw the ball. He's going to know better than me because he's going to have that vision. He's the one there on the ground. He's able to
mm,
figure out, oh, that one's open, that one's not. I can call a play and set a direction for the team, but
mm,
ultimately when they're on the field, it's their call. So why would I, control what they're doing when they're playing?
mm,
It's not my jam. And if I call a play and they go, that's a bad play, here's what we should do instead. And I've had that, and I've been caught with bad decision. In hindsight, it's bad, but there's times like recently, I don't like signing 3-year deals because it locks you in. My
mm,
team felt 100% confident, and they overrode. They said, no, this is the right platform, this is the right decision, this is it.
mm,
They all agreed. I disagreed with it, but I let them go. And in hindsight, we wish that we hadn't done that.
mm,
And I get it. They learned their lesson. And I
mm,
couldn't have predicted that it wasn't the right platform. There's no way that my decision saying, no, let's not sign the 3-year. Sure, from a risk perspective, it was the right
mm.
decision to not sign a 3-year. But ultimately, and everyone on that decision-making process now probably shares the same thought I do of never to sign a 3-year deal with new technology.
Mm. Can I ask how, so in a job like yours, where I mean, there is this inherent level of stress, right? That like you are
Yes.
responsible for
Yeah.
ultimately making sure that something really serious doesn't go wrong.
Mm.
If something really serious goes wrong, that can come back on you in quite a big way, and that can have
Yes.
ramifications. Not to hammer the point home, but not just for the job that you're in, but for the jobs that you might or might not have in the future. And I think a lot of security leaders fall into that command and control way of leading because of anxiety, because they worry about that decision that they delegate being the one that comes back to bite them. How do you manage not to fall into that archetype?
To fall into, you mean fall into the command and control archetype when it comes
Yeah,
to the
yeah.
stress on the job and the responsibilities? I honestly don't know. That's a really good question. I don't think I've ever defaulted to the command and control because even I know in the middle of an incident or before an incident, ultimately I am responsible. It's this idea of extreme ownership. There's a great book by a couple Navy SEALs about this topic. Is
Yeah,
ultimately my team. I am ultimately responsible. There's no pointing a finger down and going, well, my GRC didn't see this coming, or my incident response
yeah.
manager sucks, and this wasn't. No, that's me. But it still doesn't make me want to go into a command and control mode in any way whatsoever. Because I know better. It's this is the what's the Kahneman, there's this, it's called this, when you think you're so sure of something, you're actually less. The more confident you are that you're right about something, it's been proven that you're not right about it. In fact, it's the opposite. So fact that I doubt myself and that I think I may not have the right decision here. This may not be. Let me go to my team and see what they think to get the feedback, to get that. That means I'm leaving room in my head that I may not be right. And better decision making, those decisions that are stressful, or the decisions of, hey, okay, we need to make a decision here and it may affect us downstream or it may affect my career. Those decisions are made better in a group of experts in a conflict and debate setting to discussion than it is just me alone making that decision.
I understand what you mean about the I've never actually heard that specific Kahneman study, but I think we've all found ourselves in situations where we feel really strongly about a particular decision or something, and you can almost get a kind of high from believing it so resolutely. Well, let's skip back a little bit and talk about how you actually got into the field. What was your first job in technology?
Dunning-Kruger effect. That's the name.
The
Dunning-Kruger effect. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Popped up. You asked me how did I start? How did I get into this?
How did you get into the industry?
Yeah. Computer gaming, man. I was, and this is, now I'm going to date myself. This is before we had consoles. You would build a tower, these old tower computers. You'd go down to Fry's, this computer store, put together your mass system with NVIDIA graphics cards before NVIDIA did AI. And you'd put it together and then you'd connect them up on a network and you'd play games like Quake or Doom together. And you'd try to, first person shooter, but you'd be playing against someone.
Yeah.
Way before it even started. So that was my foot in the door. It was always a hobby of mine. I was like, I love this. I was bartending, going to junior college. I think at one point I wanted to be an archaeologist. Basically, I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Were you an Indiana Jones fan?
I was all over. Yes, I was. I was a big Indiana Jones fan. And I was like advertising, marketing.
Me too.
Yeah. So my mother, like, hey, you're into computers, and there's this MCSE certification that I read about in the paper that they're, you can get these jobs.
What is MCSE?
Yeah, that was probably one of the first big cybersecurity tech certifications to validate where you wouldn't need a college degree in it. And it's Microsoft. Oh my God, I forgot. Microsoft Core Systems Engineer. Yeah, I think. Wow, I forgot the acronym. But it was one of the first ones. So MCSE and NT40 was their first corporate operating system.
Yeah.
Before 2000 and 2012. So I got my certification in that. It took me about 6 weeks, what normally would take a 6-month program, because I literally just sat in my room for 10 hours a day and read books. Got my certification, and she was right. I got a job out of the door with B of A, Bank of America. I was like, here you go. Yeah, okay, you're a field rep. I was making, right out the gate, $55,000 a year back in like 98. It was amazing. Great opportunity. Yeah. It was really good for no college education, for a couple years of junior college. Anyways, started there. And then through a lot of luck and opportunity and getting the right position, I got into financial services with the companies that allowed me, how I talked earlier about allowing my security practitioners to branch out and not just be stuck in their vertical. I had that opportunity. I was given a job where I could touch everything: networking, operating systems, CRM. It was a small financial shop of about 150 employees, and I supported all IT for that. So it gives you a little taste of everything.
Yeah.
Then I went heavily into networking. The big CCNP guy, Cisco. So I got the certification and ran Cisco VoIP and networking for a large financial firm at Bank of New York Mellon, and worked my way up to vice president, and pivoted to security shortly after that. I was probably at Bank of New York Mellon for 7-8 years. And I threw, again, it's luck and being ready to take, people go, well, it's not just luck, right? You did a lot. Yeah, I did. And I was ready, but it's being able to take advantage of the opportunity when it comes up. And I had an opportunity to get a job that needed my IT engineering and operations background.
Yeah.
And get a platform to be HIPAA compliant. So I was able to combine security and operations. And this is, go ahead. You guys see.
Well, I was going to ask you, is that the first time you were, do you remember the first time you were cognizant of this concept called security in technology?
Sure. Back in the Mellon days, it was, do you have a firewall check? Are you running antivirus check? Okay, you pass the security check, you're good. it was around when I
Yeah.
went back for my MBA at University of Oregon. I went back to school. I did finish my degree while I was at Bank of New York Mellon, my undergrad at University of San Francisco.
Yeah.
Then I wanted to go back to get my MBA at University of Oregon. And that's about the time when security was becoming this, wow, this is kind of a big deal. And it was through a mentorship of a guy named Paul Love, who's still one of my best friends, and a guy named Gene Kim, who's famous in the
Yeah.
security field. It was through meeting them and their mentorship, realizing, putting it together and being like, wow, this is the field that I should go into. And I was kind of done with operations and engineering. Like I wouldn't say I totally mastered it, but I pretty much
Yeah.
like, what else is there to do? I'm kind of bored. And security was
Yeah.
this new field. So I had the opportunity of their mentorship and then that job that allowed me to get, which is, for anybody who wants to pivot into security, there's that conundrum of you got to have the experience. Well, I don't have the experience, but I want to get into security. Well, you don't have the experience. So as much as you can on your resume, and I'm sure James can help you with this, pull out as much security related. If you, even or volunteer in your current company. Hey, can I learn the SIM? Can I get access? Can I spend a couple hours with your team and just shadow? So I could list that on my resume. Yeah, I've worked with Splunk. I've done that. I worked with the team and helped them on these projects just to get that on your resume, to get your foot in the door, to have that conversation as the next step. And that's what that allowed me to do, was put security on my resume.
Yeah.
And then it kind of just took off from there.
We're going to end up picking this thread up again a little bit later in this episode, but I almost any time if you are in, graduating from college, or you think you want to be in the security industry, my advice is always go and do something in IT first, or go and do something in software engineering, go and do something technology related. If you don't enjoy that job, you probably won't enjoy security, right? Would that be fair to say?
I believe that's absolutely fair. Yes. Or, to be honest, I sometimes the less qualified people are the ones that have only done security, because they're focused only on, they don't understand what it is to be a tech or a practitioner in technology, or understand technology. They come to it from you can't do this perspective, which is controls, and here's the things you can't do and can do to make it safe, versus more of just building things and then figuring out how security fits in. So I find my more skilled security people are the ones that have, like you said, either they came from coding or they came from a IT background.
Well, it's an odd field, isn't it, security, because for a lot of reasons. But one of them is it is a sort of, it's almost like applying a context on top of something else, which is it could be network engineering, or it could be software engineering, sort of. So you need to have some sort of understanding of that in order to apply that other layer.
You don't need it. You can get a job, but you're going to be much better at it, and you're going to go further in your career if you have that, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. So when did you know that you wanted to get into leadership? Was that something that was really clear from the beginning, or was
that was really clear when I was when I was doing my bartending and waiting tables. I was a lead that I would open restaurants, and I was sort of introduced into management when I was like 19 years old. So I knew that that's something that was just sort of came natural to me. I just didn't think I'd be at this scale.
Yeah, yeah. And then your first bona fide true security job. I'm scrolling up and down your LinkedIn right now. Would this have been pro karma? Would that have, this is around about?
No, that was also kind of that wasn't, is anybody, what's the statute of limitations on having a good resume to build up things that may not be as strong? No,
16 years is probably all right to talk about.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
No, but that got me the foot in the door with Textile, which was Fabletics. So if you're familiar with Fabletics, the yoga athleisure wear line, and Savage X, that company was really my first CISO position. They hired me they needed someone who knew IT operations and engineering to run that, but also get them PCI DSS level 1, which is really hard. Within 4 or 5 months, they were given a deadline, and they needed me to get them there. So they hired me. They needed somebody with both the security background and a heavy IT operations engineering. And for they liked the fit. I was a very good cultural fit for that company. It's fast moving. When I started with them, they were 150 million in revenue. When I left them, they were up at like 800 million. So it was really fast growth, crazy. The idea was I'd get them PCI, build out their IT operations engineering, and in 2 years, hand off, and then run the security program as CISO. And that got me my first CISO title.
How did you find your first CISO job?
I didn't know what the F I was doing. And
Yeah.
the best advice I've ever been given, and it was from the CTO of Fabletics. He's still there. He's a good friend of mine, Tim Collins. Shout out. He said, "Fake it till you make it," and he's right. You know, never say no. Say, "Yep, I'll figure it out. I can do it." Yes, I can do it should be in your vocabulary. Yeah, I can do it. And I did, and I learned and became a great CISO there. Like I still consult with them as a virtual CISO. They haven't hired a
Yeah.
CISO since because they don't need that type of high level of role. That's what we
experienced the first time round that they, yeah.
Yeah, that's what we decided together. It was like I left on very happy terms with them. I'm like, you know what,
Yeah.
this isn't you're not that space, and he fake it till you make it. They gave me the opportunity, and if that ever comes up in your career, that somebody says, hey, what do you think about this promotion moving over to here? If it's a step up, say yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that that's an experience that people, even in their first CISO jobs today, have, right? Which is, suddenly you're thrust into a situation where you're ultimately responsible for everything. And I think even a lot of experienced CISOs, nobody runs their program in the same way every single time. There is always an element of improvisation going on, which you have to be comfortable with.
Change culture, the team, the company, everything is dynamic. There's no like template you're going to apply as a CISO company to company. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I'm a very different CISO than I was at Textile, Fabletics. I was a different CISO at MindBody, and I'm a different CISO at Freshworks.
Well, let's talk about the kind of core of this podcast then, because something that you've always been very passionate about in our conversations is mentoring, the next generation of security professionals to come up. And I know several people. You talked about Paul, who we both know, who's running security for a large bit of Delta down in Atlanta at the moment. And then you've got multiple examples of people that, have come up through your programs and then gone on to do, really great things. So the something that you wanted to talk about today was the potential upcoming problem with the pipeline of young security talent coming into the industry, where their sort of first few jobs would be stuff that it seems AI can do straight out of the gate.
The entry level. Yeah. That is a big concern of mine. And some of my peers, these are conversations we're having with my CISO peers that we'll talk about, is that, so you want to get your door in security, like James said. Maybe you start in IT, but you're not going to immediately work in IT typically and suddenly get to a manager position on a security team. You need to understand what the security does as a practitioner, as a contributor. So your typical entry-level positions could be a software engineer, IC1, where you're, doing code review for basic code review or doing basic pen testing. Another entry level is typical is security operations center, where you're looking at a screen and monitoring logs and trying to do correlation between events that you're seeing and determining if it's, false positive or if something you need to address and send to a senior level. GRC has the same. So a lot of these jobs are the ones that are getting hit by AI today. This isn't something like, hey, it's going to happen in the next year or two. It is today. These layoffs that we're seeing in the industry are all I call them IC1s, individual contributor level 1, individual contributor level 2, and it goes up the chain. These are all the IC1s, IC2 roles that are getting displaced by AI. But those roles are our pipeline for how we find talent and how we get people to move up. Sometimes some people at IC1s and 2s, they're not working out, let them go. And they may not have a career in security later. Maybe they pivot, they realize it's not for them. But the ones that do move up to IC3s, IC4s, and eventually PMs. So you have this big, it's a pyramid, right? You get this pyramid. Here's the CISO at the top and down below, and all these IC1s and 2 that feed this pyramid, filter out. And it's a lot like, I like the analogy of baseball. How do pro baseball teams find their talent? College, farm teams. Yeah. And, you don't just, very rarely you come out of high school and you immediately go into the pros. You typically go into a college, or you go onto a farm team, AAA, AA, and then A, and then you get up to, okay, now I'm ready for the pros after this thing. And if we're getting rid of that pipeline, where am I going to find my talent? I don't think I can hire someone out of college, or even that was working in IT for a couple of years, into an IC3 role.
Yeah.
Maybe you could say, there's a counter argument I heard from somebody, I forgot, at some meeting I was at with CISOs, and they said, well, AI is really replacing that. So they no longer need to do that work. So yeah, they can, because now they can rely on AI to do that analysis for them as an IC3. And I think there's a problem with that. I think it's the same way. Would you want an architect designing your home that doesn't understand geometry? and he relies on AI to do the geometry for him, I
Mm,
would not.
mm.
But I don't know. I'd love to see your opinion on this, James. Do you think that we don't need to rely, like, could it be the future? Use that architect analysis. Is
Yeah.
it just we're always going to rely on AI from now, and that's what did the geometry, and he or she doesn't need to know
Yeah.
geometry
Well,
to be a good architect?
yeah, I mean, there's an interesting conversation developing in software engineering at the moment about pretty much the same thing, which is,
Yes.
and
I mean, they're
again,
getting hit harder than security.
yes, yeah, yeah. I mean, again, I don't. You can read articles in Forbes and GQ magazine, and you're never quite sure how much of the picture they're sort of really describing. But there was one quite recently about Silicon Valley software engineers. People with sort of 20 years of experience, not writing code anymore, and they're kind of almost playing this dual role, both one of like software architects, so trying to keep this kind of big picture context, and then the other, which was very bizarre, is basically kind of creating moral frameworks for the AI to do like write code the right way each time, and coming up with lists of like 10 commandments for you're always going to do this, you're always going to debug, and so on. But it's the first bit, which is the architecture, that those people got to that ability to do that through 20 years of writing code hands on. So is there a world in which 10, 15 years we have far less capable senior software engineers slash architects, because for exactly what you're saying, that pipeline
Yeah.
has started to but sorry, so just there's a few kind of, I think, ways to talk about the what's happening at the moment and what could happen. The I think the first is just to get really specific about what you mean by sort of IC1s, IC2s,
Yeah.
IC3s. Say let's talk about a what I think these days is quite commonly called an enterprise security engineer. So this is somebody who's fairly generically across identity, detection and response,
Yep.
data protection, maybe some GRC, although there's obviously a specialist kind of role for that. So in your mind, like, where does traditionally, where would that person in their career enter their first security role? What kind of springs to mind immediately?
Help desk.
Help desk, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Started at help desk and maybe moves over to enterprise security
Yeah.
if they have help desk
Yeah.
experience.
So you're thinking kind of like 2 or 3 years in help desk, maybe become a sysadmin, then maybe go into
I wouldn't even need
and
a sysadmin, to be honest, to be that entry level in enterprise IT security, because a lot of
yeah,
it is
yeah,
today without AI is
yeah,
I'll call it grunt work, but it's a lot of, okay, so I need to, maybe they're IAM, so they're the ones that have to go in and configure new accounts or offboard accounts, or they're going in and connecting systems together, which is all replaceable by AI,
yeah,
or they're, going across and making sure that our SSPM is configured correctly. It's SSPM is a SaaS tool that looks at all your different SaaS applications that companies run now and make sure they're configured correctly. And his day-to-day existence may be looking at the dashboard. Oh, something changed over here. I got an alert about a configuration change. Let me go look at it and make
yeah,
sure that that
yeah,
configuration turns was intentional or not. Was there a change request? This sort of manual work.
yeah,
That would be an
yeah.
example of an enterprise IT security engineer,
Yeah,
entry level.
interesting. So the kind of pipeline that's disappearing, this isn't necessarily one like in security. This is the pipeline from outside of security into that,
Yeah.
transitioning that person into their first.
And that example I gave of if you're not the act of going in and the brain that whatever your brain is putting those neural pathways together and building the knowledge about when they go in and learn, oh, why is this connecting to this application? Why is it asking for this configuration setting in Salesforce, for example?
Yeah,
Why is that
yeah,
important? They're
yeah,
going to learn that through the process
yeah,
of doing this as that entry
yeah,
level. How do you skip that in 2 years, 3 years from now?
yeah,
You want to hire someone who doesn't have that experience. You're going to hope that they have that contextual awareness. Sure, AI may fix where they can go in and AI will check it and fix it.
yeah,
But then when it comes to contextual awareness of risk or why is this important at Salesforce and an application, and carry that over to,
yeah,
and then take that pattern, because human beings are pattern making animals, take that
yeah,
pattern and apply it to other places that you're not familiar, that isn't algorithmic in nature, like isn't just this, it's not only Salesforce, but I can take that same
yeah,
pattern I saw and apply it to HubSpot. Oh,
yeah,
I saw that over there. And this is why this configuration is bad. I
yeah,
feel like
yeah.
that's what we're losing.
Yeah, and you can apply that to sort of any type of security role, right? So like
Yeah.
application security, where do they come from? Junior software engineers after 3 or 4 years who convert over into doing AppSec full time. GRC analysts, probably the ones that are most likely, to come from, starting in security as a GRC analyst right out of college. But I mean, even that probably out of any security role has been hit the hardest in the last few years by a number of things, but AI included. Um, Look, can I just kind of pull out a second? And again, this is I don't think we're going to sort of hammer through kind of every detail of solutions in the next kind of 20 minutes or so, but I wanted to kind of talk about it from another lens. So and you might have a personal perspective on this as well. From what perspective are you worried about this? So, and just to explain a bit what I mean about that, one day I'll learn how to mute Teams and Outlook when I'm recording podcasts. Um, so let's say you as a CISO find it really hard to find junior people to put in your programs, and it becomes harder to do security effectively. So will it be logical to therefore say that every other CISO finds it really hard to find junior talent to pull into their programs, and therefore, the standard of security drops, but it's such a universal drop that CISOs are fine, and it doesn't really affect things. It's just known that it's harder to do security. Does that actually have a positive impact on people's personal careers? Because do you as a CISO get paid more because we have more security
Yeah.
incidents and it's harder to it's a weird one, isn't it? Because people complain about problems in the security industry all the time, and I hear it every week. But a lot of the things that they complain about, there's another way of thinking about this, which is, well, problems are good, um, really, for the industry to solve. So, what do you kind of think about that in the context of the potential talent pipeline issue?
I have thought about this, and for me, my personal impact to me in my career is it makes my career better. Like it's a positive outcome on my career.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're not going to have the talent in 10 years that you used to have in the industry because
Yeah.
it's been replaced. So that talent pool is like, you're going to have to go to these people that already have the experience. And eventually, it'll probably dry up or might dry up. And I got to think back to, uh, if you're familiar, you've heard of a guy named Scott Galloway? He's a
Yeah.
famous, okay,
Yeah.
great. He wrote a
Yeah.
book called Notes on Being a Man. And he has this idea, some of the things he talks about is how Gen Z is getting pretty much ripped off by my generation, by Gen X and boomers, that this wealth disparity. This is an
Where
example
do
of
millennials fit in
increasing.
all of
You're in the middle. You're okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Gen Z and Gen Alpha it's all, and this is another exasperation of that, where now my generation is going to reap the benefits of this, the older over 40 crowd, because we have that experience. To me, it's another example of Gen Z kind of like getting the short end of the stick, or Gen Alpha getting even more short end of the stick, because all these entry level jobs are gone, and now, and maybe a good outcome of this might be age discrimination goes away. No, we want the 60-year-old for this role. He's the only one that knows how to do this. She's the only one that has this experience. We need her.
Yeah.
So what if she's 60? I don't know. Maybe that's a positive outcome of this.
So I think there's another way to think about this as well, which is and I talk about this with, for, and this is even before I came into the industry, 7 or 8 years ago. There was there seemed to be this huge disparity between the number of open, security positions, hypothetically, the talent shortage. But then even during the biggest boom of the technology market in my lifetime, which was probably peaked about sort of 6 years ago, um, people found it really hard to get into entry level roles in security. And the way that I always looked at it was something called the development debt curve for security teams. So if you are a CISO running a team of 5, 6, 7 people, which is much more, I think, commonly the CISO experience, as opposed to leading a team of 50 or 60 like you do.
Yeah.
If you take on somebody straight out of college, or you take on somebody who's transferring over from help desk, in most situations, like, your team's going to get worse for 6 months because you're diverting
Yes.
resources to train that person.
Yes.
So your capability drops.
Yeah.
And then there's the chance that you train this person and then you get another 6 months out of them and they get headhunted by another security program that has a bigger budget. So I guess what I'm asking is, whose responsibility is it to train this next generation? Do you have a strong opinion on that?
I don't know if it's, I don't think there is any response. I don't think there is anyone's responsibility. I don't think it's a company. I don't think it's mine as CISO. There's no responsibility to train that generation. That might be the best question you've ever asked me. I don't have an answer for you. I don't, if I was a CISO in that situation, that's the risk I take. But I also be a good leader, do these things I talk about, provide them training, growth, so that they don't want to leave in that 1 year where they might get poached, and give them a happy work environment and pay them adequately to what their value is worth in the open market. And you're going to greatly reduce the likelihood of them leaving. The saying of people don't leave companies, they leave managers. That is also true. Probably not 100%, but that's part of it. So just do all these things you can to keep the talent that you have as best you can within your realm of control. Sometimes it's out of your control. And you have to do. And another good approach too that we do as CISOs is internships. Those are great ways to bypass that. So you're not taking a risk. You can pay less. They get the 6 months experience that they want for their resume. And after that, if you have a position, hey, let's bring you on, and it's not really hurting your team or taking an impact on your team as much as you might think. That's a tactic I think a lot of CISOs are using these days. And it's a great opportunity for people that need to get their foot in the door and want the experience or need the experience to get on their resume to move up.
It's hard to know, isn't it, with a topic like this, whether because you and I have talked about this, and to play devil's advocate for something like the security talent pipeline, there is a possibility that these things have an element of being self-correcting, right? That if we get to a point in sort of 5-10 years at which we are really struggling to find people who are even remotely qualified, maybe then CISOs get a budget to build grad programs and grad pipelines, or build entry-level pipelines, because it's not just desirable, it's necessary for companies to do that. But it's also hard to know whether, maybe conversations like this are quite important, because unless we do think really consciously about something like this coming up, we can end up sleepwalking into quite a disastrous situation for the industry.
Maybe. Can I play the one? I'm thinking of counter arguments to this. Maybe that it works where, like farming, and we've seen other, with industrial revolution of these jobs moving in different directions and going different ways. Maybe AI moves up the chain more. So it's not just IC 1s and 2s, where it can replace a large chunk of your security program as a company. So you no longer need 30 people, you need only 10 people to run. And maybe you just need less. And maybe you don't need that level of high expertise that you used to in the next 10 years with AI. That could very well happen. So maybe just the industry shrinks as a whole from a human capital perspective of how much human you need to run AI security, especially if you're combating AI. If AI is using to attack, what are you going to need to defend? You're going to need AI to defend. So maybe it just ends up an AI focused, industry in the future.
When you started talking about farming, I thought you were going to go down the subsidy route.
Ooh, I wasn't thinking of that. I don't think the company we treat. I don't think USA is ready to subsidize white collar yet.
Freudian slip, but maybe not that far off these days. At least,
maybe
for the moment. To wrap this up, and it's been wonderful having you on as a guest. I really appreciate the time that we've spent together. Is there any, let's say that you're somebody who wants to get into security, and you might be just out of college, you might be in college, you might be a couple of years out. Given what's going on at the moment, what would be your best stab at good advice for those sorts of people?
Learn how AI works. Now, you don't need to go in, build data models and understand the math, because I accidentally took a SANS class on AI model and realized this is a data science class. I haven't done math since college. Are you kidding me? And it's all math. It's all math. So you don't need to go to that level of it. But the level up of understanding how is it architected, how is it built, what's talking to what, and apply how the security controls apply in an agentic AI and LLM AI environment, and have that as one of the tools in your toolkit on your resume and in your experience that you can speak to. In fact, you might want to focus on that, because that's where everything is focused now, is how do I secure AI? How do I build secure AI? How do I secure AI in my environment for the enterprise? And that will help you.
Do you also think that there's an element of reassurance that we can give people as well, that like something changing dramatically in the technology industry is nothing new? You know, this has happened.
Yeah, I have a good analogy for this. I was talking to I'm part of a growth. I don't know why I'm telling who I told this to. I told this great story. I look at it like some of this, how AI is the SaaS apocalypse, right? AI is going to replace SaaS. AI is going to do this, and it's going to replace all these different companies. So this is more of a marketplace view of AI impact. Look at open source. When open source came out with Linux, it's going to wipe Windows off the map. It's going to wipe Oracle. All the corporate systems are done. That never happened.
Yeah.
Red Hat had a little bit. Linux was a Red Hat was a company that would support an open source version because you need the compliance, the stability. When this idea that, I can just go run an AI and stand up a security program by writing some prompts into Claude and let OpenClaw run it for me. Who's going to maintain it? Who's going to make sure it's secure? There's so much that goes into providing an enterprise grade platform that maybe AI will solve that in 5 to 10 years, but today it's not. You need someone to own, operate, make sure it's compliant. There's so much more to running either a SaaS business or a MSP for security that goes into it than just, having AI do it. So I don't think it's as apocalyptic as the market might portend. Portend a word? Foretell? I don't know.
We need a cut of pig. 410. No.
Great. Okay.
I think also you can drive yourself crazy trying to predict where things are going to be in sort of 5 to 10 years, and ultimately no one knows that.
No.
If you want a good career, learning, building relationships with people, being nice to people, trying not to be an asshole, these are all things that, if done, to the right degree, will probably set you up fairly well, as they have done for time immemorial, which I think is how I pronounce that.
Which is funny because I'm launching a new podcast called Gen. So I'm now giving a plug. I'm launching a new podcast called Gen and Tonic, and it's 3 generations talking about how we interact in the business world. So we have a Gen Z, a millennial, and myself, the Gen Xer. And our last episode we recorded was how to deal with assholes at work. And don't be that. It will go much further if you're not one of those. What James just said. Yeah, a lot of it is just, don't be a dick. Be nice. Treat people with respect and empathy. It's not that hard.
Yeah. What a wonderful note to wrap up on. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I thank you if you've been listening to this episode. There's somebody in our business that gives me really wonderful feedback on these episodes, and I genuinely do appreciate, what they've said, and some of their feedback has really helped improve them. He always wants me to describe the guest that I'm having on next week and what the conversation is going to be about. I never know who's going to be on next week, and I haven't had the conversation yet, so I can't give you any preview of that. I just hope that it is as informed and as warm and as charming as the conversation that we've had today. So thank you again.
James, thanks for having me on. And for those of you who don't know James personally or haven't worked with him yet, he is in my 25 years of experience in tech, he is absolutely the best recruiter I have ever had the privilege of working with and knowing. So give him a shake. If you're looking for good security talent, check out Stanton House. They're the guys.
I hugely appreciate you saying that. Well, look, enjoy the rest of your day, and speak again very soon.
Thanks, James.